Congratulations! You clicked on this video and you found me. You are probably wondering who I am. Do I just push buttons all day? Am I constantly shouting and bickering with singers, rappers, artists, bands, and other professionals in the field, constantly trying to get them to yield out their best work? Am I a master at the beat selling game? Or better yet, am I a Skrillex or Timbaland ripoff? Here to sell you my masterclass on some of the greatest production and engineering secrets in the game. The answer to that is no. Really, all of it, the answer is no. Little bit of yes, but mostly no. My name is Jake, and I have been producing music and composing music for the last 15 years. However, this June will mark the 5th year of me doing this as my full-time job. It is an absolute blessing. It's my favorite pastime. I love what I do, and I always tell my clients that. My wife knows it. Everyone who knows me knows that I love what I do, and I will probably never stop doing it. With that amount of time dedicated to what I do, sometimes I've had clients ask me, why don't you provide lessons? Or why don't you try to offer things like how-tos or tips and tricks? Or every couple of months, I'll hear from my YouTube enthusiast father, and he'll say things like, have you ever thought about doing a masterclass? Are you sure you don't want to offer people a masterclass? Long story short, this is a big step for me. Big steps come in small forms. So this small form will be a sort of minimalist approach. And we're going to start with a question. What exactly is a music producer? That's what I'm here to demystify and sort of explain my job title, because it's almost like you have 5 jobs, sometimes even more, just kind of compressed, pun intended, down into one. I think what made me even ask this question myself is when one of my clients asked me a couple of years back, so what is it that you actually do? So we're going to start there. There are a lot of things that I've thought about as I've gone through this process of producing for other people, making beats, composing stuff for TV and film, things that I've learned that weren't really in the job description when I started. A little more on that later. We're going to kind of go through kind of what the stereotypes are of being a music producer, and I'm going to present them in a way that might make sense, it might not, but that's what the comment section is for, so let's go. Person who makes music. Put simply, the stereotype is true. Being a music producer means that you oversee the entire process of making a song from the very beginning to the very end. Sometimes that might not be exactly from scratch. Sometimes you might have to build an entire song from scratch, drums, bass, synth, all of it together in the same session. Sometimes it might be cut up over many sessions. Sometimes you might have people send you an entire band performing, and you have to just make the ear candy, make it sound like it's ready for Spotify, and send it back to them. That's pretty much what a music producer does in a nutshell, and I would say the stereotype is true. The one-man band / instrument player. This is my favorite explanation of my job and what I do for people, and I've actually used this terminology a lot. I often tell people I'm essentially a one-man band. You can bring me a couple of your instrumentalists to me, you can bring just yourself, you can literally record yourself just singing into a phone, and we can make it a hit, or at least try to. Probably 30 to 40% of my jobs has been, hey, I have a song or a lyric idea. What do you think we can do with it? I want it to sound like this artist or this artist. And then from there, I'll go ahead and just bulk it up, make it sound as professional as possible. Other times, I'll have someone who has literally done about 70% of that work for me, and then I have to simply just supervise that. So I would say this stereotype of a producer is true because it is a lot more common than one would think. You do have to kind of have your head in the right space, and you do have to sort of have your wits about you when it comes to certain instrumental talents and certain ways of presenting music. Even if you don't play an instrument, it's still good to have a bit of knowledge based on how they're played and how they are used in pieces of music so that you can make the best recording possible for the job. The person in the studio at the mixing boards. This is probably the most common perception of what a music producer is. You'll see footage of a band performing in a studio, and usually there's someone over the counter at the mixing board with headphones on, listening to everything, adjusting everything, every little single fader, every little single knob. Sometimes this is the audio engineer or the recording engineer, but a good amount of time, it's the music producer as well. Sometimes music producers and audio engineers are like this. They're interchangeable depending on what the job is. And as a music producer, you have to know a little bit about mixing just to get by and just to kind of work with others in your field. Sometimes you see the guy that kind of knows everything and is kind of supervising and overseeing and just watching every little thing from the sidelines and maybe giving the performer some tips, or maybe rewinding back to different parts of the song while people are performing. That could be what a music producer is. So I would also say that's kind of true. Not always. Sometimes it could just be an engineer or a guy that knows a lot about stuff, or it could be someone's friend. Maybe they're just hanging out. Maybe they just want to sit at the boards to look cool. I know I would, and I've been there a couple of times. The beat maker. This is true. Maybe not for every music producer, because some music producers do not make beats. They usually just kind of do guitar music, or they do vocal arrangements, or sometimes they don't even really work in a field where a beat is necessary. A lot of times there are more modern producers that identify solely as a beat maker. It's a very common understanding as to what music producers do. If you look at very iconic music producers like Timbaland back in the early 2000s, that was the epitome and the idea of what a music producer is. Someone who arranges music in a way that could be used as a beat, or takes a beat and meshes it with and blends it with what an artist is creating, or finds a way to create a beat from scratch that matches an artist's idea. The music philosopher. I don't know where to start with this one. I will say there are some people in the music field that don't play an instrument and they still produce music. There's a couple examples that I can name, but the best is Rick Rubin. There's a lot of, I would say, scrutiny with producers that fit into this category, but it is truth, and some of these people yield really great art from their artists and come up with great ideas nonetheless, so it is still valid. You can be in this field and not have any musical talent or skill whatsoever. You just have to have an open mind and a good ear. For example, Rick Rubin does not know how to play the guitar or doesn't know how to play drums. He'll let the artists that he's working with sort of figure out what their idea is in the studio, and he'll supervise and start asking questions like, well, how does that make you feel? How does that interpret this? This is a weird one, but sometimes music producers don't even play instruments when it comes to their jobs. Sometimes they just listen for the right moments and bring that to attention with the people that they're working with. They know what they want, they listen, they have ideas, but they don't know how to play them out. So they assimilate the rest of the job and the rest of the pieces needed in different ways that are very not typical of what the status quo is when it comes to this job title. Stereotype number 6, and my favorite, anything and everything at once. So the reason why I put this in here, and this is completely unscripted, there is no part of this that I've written. Essentially, I wanted to leave a space for everything and all of the above, just a letter D or a letter E to the question of what exactly is a music producer, because I feel like we're in a day and age where things are constantly being changed. And I feel like even now, creativity takes different forms constantly. So to simply define something as this is what a music producer is really hard to do, because in a way, anyone who comes up with an idea and learns to actualize it in some way when it comes to music and creativity is in fact a music producer in some way. You can even have someone executively produce their music and just oversee the entire process of producers producing their music. It gets a little messy from there, and it gets a little woo-woo and hard to understand. But essentially what I'm saying is, in the music industry, whether you're working with top 40 bands and artists, or you're getting tracks made for the latest SoundCloud banger, or scoring for TV and film, or you do a little bit of everything. Personally, the thing I always tell myself when I'm at work is everything goes. I always keep an open mind, including things that I'll chat about on this channel. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and go ahead and share some of your experience down below in the comments, whether you're a music creator yourself, you make beats, or if you want to learn how to do this kind of stuff, or maybe you're just someone who just enjoys music and you just stumbled across me by accident. Hey, if there is a certain topic that you want me to go in more detail about, I'm more than happy to hear it, because I'm going to start sharing some of my experience on here just about working with people and kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of what making music is really like, maybe some sort of topics that are a bit conflicting to people getting started, and I'll also give out some tips and tricks on the way on making different kinds of music as well. Not all my content's going to be this abstract and kind of out of the way. Even with where I'm currently at in the music industry and learning to work with other artists and bigger ideas and coming up with those and actualizing those. I'm constantly learning. Like, I pretty much with every job am learning something new that I want to share with people. And so I'm going to use this channel to sort of log all of that out and sort of spell it out for people. That way you don't really have to take as many steps to get to the end goal as I did. Who knows, maybe you'll get to share some stuff with me that you've made after watching one of these, and that would be great. No questions are wrong here, just room to improve.